All right, folks, let's kick things off with a classic peach cobbler. We're talking juicy, ripe peaches bursting with flavor under a golden brown, buttery crust. First things first, preheat that oven to a toasty 375 degrees Fahrenheit. Now for the peaches, you'll need about 6 cups of sliced peaches. If you're feeling fancy, peel those peaches, but hey, we're all friends here. Leaving the skin on adds a rustic charm and a bit more texture. Toss those peaches in a bowl with a tablespoon of lemon juice, a cup of sugar, feel free to adjust to your liking, and a pinch of salt. Give it a good mix. Let those peaches hang out and release their juices while we work on the cobbler topping. For a truly decadent cobbler experience, grab 1.5 sticks of unsalted butter. Yes, you heard that right, and melt that goodness down. In a separate bowl, whisk together 1 cup of all-purpose flour, 1 cup of granulated sugar, a teaspoon of baking powder, and a 1/4 teaspoon of salt. Once the butter is melted and slightly cooled, gradually whisk it into the dry ingredients until everything is combined into a beautiful, thick batter. Pour the peach mixture into a buttered baking dish. A 9 by 13-inch pan will do the trick. Now here comes the fun part. Gently drop spoonfuls of the batter over the peaches. Pop that masterpiece into the preheated oven and bake for about 45 to 50 minutes or until the topping is golden brown and the peaches are bubbly. Now I know it's tempting to dive right in, but let it cool for a bit so those flavors can meld and the cobbler can set. Serve it warm with a generous scoop of vanilla ice cream. Trust me, it's pure heaven. All right, moving on to a berrylicious delight blueberry cobbler. This recipe is all about that irresistible combination of sweet and tart blueberries enveloped in a warm, comforting cobbler topping. First things first, preheat your oven to 350 degrees Fahrenheit. Now let's talk blueberries. You'll need 6 cups of fresh blueberries. Rinse them gently and let them drain while we prepare the rest of the magic. For the cobbler topping, we're sticking with our trusty combination of flour, sugar, butter, and a touch of baking powder. In a large bowl, whisk together 1.5 cups of all-purpose flour, 1.5 cups of granulated sugar, 1.5 teaspoons of baking powder, and a 1/2 teaspoon of salt. Now here's where things get interesting. Cut 1 cup or 2 sticks of cold unsalted butter into small pieces and add them to the dry ingredients. Using your fingers or a pastry blender, work that butter into the flour mixture until it resembles coarse crumbs. In a separate bowl, whisk together 1 cup of milk and 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract. Gradually add the wet ingredients to the dry ingredients, mixing until just combined. Don't overmix. Pour the blueberries into a buttered 9 by 13-inch baking dish. Sprinkle the blueberry filling with a 1/4 cup of granulated sugar and a teaspoon of ground cinnamon, because why not? Spoon the batter over the blueberries and bake for 45 to 50 minutes, or until the topping is golden brown and the blueberries are bubbly. This cobbler is phenomenal on its own, but a dollop of whipped cream takes it to a whole new level of indulgence. Chapter 3. An Ode to Autumn Apple Cobbler. Let's celebrate the flavors of fall with a warm and comforting apple cobbler. This recipe is all about those tender, cinnamon-spiced apples nestled under a buttery, crumbly topping. Preheat your oven to 375 degrees Fahrenheit. For the apple filling, you'll need about 6 cups of peeled and sliced apples. I like to use a mix of Granny Smith and Honeycrisp for a balance of tartness and sweetness. Toss those apple slices in a bowl with 1/4 cup of lemon juice, 1 cup of granulated sugar, 2 tablespoons of all-purpose flour, 1 teaspoon of ground cinnamon, and a pinch of salt. Now, let's make that irresistible cobbler topping. In a large bowl, combine 1.5 cups of all-purpose flour, 1 cup of granulated sugar, 1 teaspoon of baking powder, and a 1/2 teaspoon of salt. Cut 1 cup or 2 sticks of cold, unsalted butter into small pieces and work it into the dry ingredients until it forms coarse crumbs. Slowly drizzle in 1/2 cup of heavy cream, mixing until just combined. Pour the apple mixture into a buttered 9 by 13-inch baking dish. Drop spoonfuls of the cobbler topping over the apples, ensuring it's evenly distributed. Bake for 45 to 50 minutes or until the topping is golden brown and the apples are tender. This apple cobbler is the epitome of fall comfort food. A scoop of vanilla ice cream melting on top? Don't mind if I do. Chapter 4. Tart and Tangy Cherry Cobbler. Get ready for a burst of tart and tangy flavor with this incredible cherry cobbler. We're talking juicy cherries coated in a sweet and slightly tangy sauce, all topped with a buttery golden brown crust. Preheat your oven to 350 degrees Fahrenheit. For this recipe, you'll need 4 cups of fresh or frozen cherries pitted and halved. If you're using frozen cherries, make sure to thaw them completely and drain any excess liquid. In a large saucepan, combine the cherries, 1 cup of granulated sugar, 1/4 cup of water, 2 tablespoons of cornstarch, 1 tablespoon of lemon juice, and a pinch of salt. Bring the mixture to a boil over medium heat, stirring constantly. Reduce the heat to low and simmer for about 5 minutes or until the sauce has thickened. While the cherry filling is simmering, let's whip up that cobbler topping. In a large bowl, combine 1½ cups of all-purpose flour, 1 cup of granulated sugar, 1 teaspoon of baking powder, and a ½ teaspoon of salt. Cut 1 cup or 2 sticks of cold, unsalted butter into small pieces and work it into the dry ingredients until it forms coarse crumbs. Stir in 1/2 cup of milk until just combined. Pour the cherry filling into a buttered 9 by 13-inch baking dish. Drop spoonfuls of the cobbler topping over the cherries. Bake for 40 to 45 minutes or until the topping is golden brown and the filling is bubbly. Alright guys, that's a wrap on 4 incredible fruit cobbler recipes that will rock your world. From the classic peach cobbler to the berrylicious explosion, there's a cobbler here for every taste bud and occasion. These cobblers are the perfect way to showcase the natural sweetness of fresh fruit while indulging in a warm, comforting dessert. Remember, baking is all about experimentation and having fun in the kitchen, so don't be afraid to get creative with your cobblers. Try different fruit combinations, add a sprinkle of your favorite spices, or even experiment with different toppings. The possibilities are endless. Thanks for joining me on this cobbler adventure, and be sure to subscribe for more delicious recipes coming soon. Until next time, happy baking!